Okay, now, let's take a look at the reflex zones on the side of your foot. Situated on the surface of your big toe is the reflex zone for the nose. The first joint of your big toe is where the cervical vertebrae reflex zone is. Slightly below is the smallest reflex zone, the parathyroid gland. If a person has cramps in the legs, then that is an indication of a lack of calcium in their diet. Special attention must be paid to this area. You can massage these three zones individually or all together. The way to do it is to lock your thumb in between the big toe and the first little toe and use the joint of your index finger to massage it in an upward direction. We now move on to the reflex zone for the vertebrae. The exact location of this reflex zone is in the arch of your foot. You can feel the bone across the area. Do not massage directly onto the bone, but slightly below it. The front of this bone is the zone for the thoracic vertebrae. Following this is the zone for the lumbar vertebrae. Directly below the spot where I'm pointing to are zones for the sacrum and the coccyx. The reflex zone of the hip joint can be found around the lower ankle bone. Slightly upwards and to the right is the reflex zone for the inguinal region, as well as part of the zone for the ribs. Let me demonstrate this again to you. From the thoracic vertebrae to the lumbar vertebrae, onto the sacrum and the coccyx. A lot of pressure is required when massaging these areas. There's a very close relationship between the coccyx and the sciatic nerve. If one has been sitting down for too long, the lack of exercise will cause pain in this region. Between the hip joint zone and the sciatic nerve zone is another zone which is also very important. It is the zone for the prostate gland for men and the uterus for women. A lot of women have problems in this area. For example, they may have tumors. Now then, if it's an acute tumor, then an operation is required. But if it's a chronic tumor, then we recommend doing this treatment on the zone for about 1 month. If the tumor starts to disappear, then this means that the treatment has been effective. So far, we've covered all the reflex zones on the inner side of your foot. Now let's take a look at the lymph glands reflex zone, which is located at the tip of your foot. When massaging the lymph gland zone for the lower body and the lymph gland zone for the upper body, a special method is required. First, apply the lotion onto the treated area. Then press both of your thumbs onto the bottom of the foot. Use the second joint of the index fingers of both hands and rub firmly in a downward direction. As we all know, the lymph glands are part of our immune system, making them very important. If the patient has lipoma or is suffering from infections on a regular basis, this zone must be treated regularly. We can find the inguinal reflex zone right here. This applies to our groin area. So, we'll massage it like this, in a downward direction. Now, this area is particularly important because massaging both these zones simultaneously is the best way to prevent cancer. The thing is, if you increase the resistance of the immune system in your body, then your resistance to the cancer cells will also increase. So please pay special attention to this area. The reflex zones on the top of your foot, beginning with your big toe, these are the upper jaw, the lower jaw, and the tonsil zone. The way to massage these zones is to use the first joint of your index finger. You can do it either sideways or in an up and down motion. You can also do it this way, but it may hurt a bit, so please be careful whilst doing it. Now next, let's move on to the reflex zones for the throat. The voice box, the thoracic duct, the larynx, and the windpipe. All these reflex zones are between the bones of the big toe and the second toe. Further down, we find the reflex zone of the lymph system. As we know, many teachers will find that they lose their voice frequently. Now, this is the area to work on. The way to do it is to use the tip of your index finger to press down firmly in an upward direction. You can also find the reflex zones for the eyes on this side of the foot. They are between the second and third little toes. Use the tip of your thumb to massage this area. Two centimeters below is the reflex zone for the breast. If there are problems in the breast area, it's because there's something wrong with your immune system. Therefore, massage not only this area, but also the zones for the lymph glands and the spleen. In between the last two small toes, in the indented area, is located the reflex zone for the balance organ. If a person gets dizzy easily, seasick, hypertension or hypotension, or tinnitus, this is the area that needs to be worked on. Whether you're going to massage it from the front or from the back, it's entirely up to you. Now look at this. This zone that I'm now pointing at is for the back. If you feel sore in the back area, you can massage it like this. Use the second joint of your index finger to press down on it. You'll feel relief in your back right away. For better treatment, it is recommended that you massage the surrounding reflex zones as well. We now move on to the reflex zone on the outside of the foot. First, we start with the reflex zone for the shoulder. Here it is. This is the front part of our shoulder. Use the tip of your thumb to massage this area, since it is very sensitive. You can also do it this way, although it may hurt a bit. My patient obviously doesn't think so. In this area, you can feel a bone sticking out. That is the zone for the elbow. Start from this bone and go across like this. That is the zone for the diaphragm. Here, this is the diaphragm. Now, the diaphragm separates the upper abdomen from the lower abdomen. You can also use the second joint of both index fingers. A little further down, you'll find an indented area. This is the zone for the knee. This zone is wide and deep, yet it is very sensitive. Many elderly people have pain in the knee area, so do not ignore this zone. The area that I'm pointing to is the zone for the ribs.